Hey, thank you so much for joining me. This is the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio. I'm Mark from Eclectic Arts. And again, thank you so much for joining me, especially here on a Monday. I'm located up in Seattle, Washington, and we have been unseasonably hot the past 2 days. If you're down in California or in the desert in Vegas or Texas or somewhere, I'm sure this is nothing to you. But we hit 100 degrees yesterday. We're like in about 90 today. So for the Washingtonians that are from here, like myself, we don't like this. we like maybe like 80 and sun. That's perfect for summer. But anyway, I am so glad to be doing this. I've been a part of the Alice virtual tour since May. So if you've had a chance to see any of those shows, or if you're watching this because of that, thank you so much. I almost said welcome to Alice TV because I'm so used to doing that. That's obviously my band, and I love all the band members and every opportunity that they've given me for this whole time. It's just been just amazing for me. So I've got a few things to mention that I have coming up. That Thursday it's going to be 9 a.m. in the morning because of time zone issues. I have Tyler Mane and Renee Geerlings coming. And Tyler, for those that aren't familiar with him, he is Sabretooth in the first X-Men film. He was Michael Myers in the Rob Zombie films. And he's been in Troy. But what I want to talk to him about, and Renee, is they did a wonderful horror thriller film called Compound Fracture back in 2013. It just got re-released last week. And they also did another film called Penance Lane that was also recommended viewing for me if you're into that kind of that genre of film. So we're going to be talking about all of those kind of things and everything under the sun on Thursday morning. I have a director and lead actress from a wonderful film that I reviewed that are in Germany. So we're trying to figure out if we're doing this Wednesday or Thursday. It's supposed to be Thursday. Now it looks like I might move to Wednesday. So just keep watching my socials for updates about when that live stream is happening. And for those that watched the Fun Table on Friday, round 4, that was just an amazing time. Obviously, we all like to tell stories, and there were a lot of hot air in that session from Mike, Wade, and myself. The round table is going to be, the Fun Table is going to be, I keep saying round table, Fun Table, I keep going in and out. It's going to be coming back this Friday at 7 p.m. I already have the guest book. And I can also tell you that the following Friday, which I think is the 27th, it's already booked for then, too. So if you want to put it down at 7 p.m. Pacific time, both this Friday and next Friday, we're already set. The Friday after that is the Friday that leads into Labor Day weekend. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do one then or not. Kind of depends on availability. Personally, I'm not doing anything that day, but that doesn't mean guests aren't doing something or doing staycations or what have you. So people are seem to be really enjoying those. I'm enjoying those, so I'm really glad and appreciating your support. I see Tony, I see Captain Blackwood. Hey guys, how you doing? Thanks for joining me. I can actually see this stuff today, and when we do the fun table on Friday, I should be able to actually reply to your chats. I actually spent some time with this stuff, so we're going to be getting to that. And so there's some things in the hopper. Like I've mentioned before, not a lot because I do have day job obligations that are kicking off, and that's taking up a lot of my time. I'm going to be helping out the Olympic Ballet Theater tomorrow with some of their virtual interviews that they've asked me to assist with. So I'm going to help out tomorrow doing I think it's 8 interviews or something like that. So I see. Yeah, Fun Table Fridays, man. That's get your beers ready, your drinks ready, whatever you're into. I'm getting stoked for these things because they're just getting better and better. But hey, let's talk about this because this is not the Fun Table. This is an interview. I've got my red backdrop still. I've got my Eclectic Arts old magazines from issue number 1, but the colors are weird. They're different. But anyway, I want to do my guest introduction. My guest this evening is a wonderful, multi-talented musician. I first met him 2 years ago at Benaroya Hall, which is where the Seattle Symphony performs. And he is just got so many different things going on that I was really, really happy that we finally found times in our schedule to make this thing work. He was playing at that time guitar with Jake Shimabukuro, who has been on the show. He continues to play with Jake. He played on the Trio album, and I think he played on the upcoming project that Jake kind of alluded to with the guest stars. But he's also got a professional baseball background for you sports people out there, and you know that I'm into sports. He's got a woodworking background. His wife is musically talented, so I know they've done stuff together. So we're going to get into all of it. So please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio, Dave Preston. And
Hey,
hey, Dave, how are you?
wonderful, man. How are you?
I'm doing the best that I can with what I got.
That's all you could want this year.
Yeah, yeah,
Or any year for that matter, I guess.
yeah. We've been talking about with some of the other guests that when we say how are you doing, and you say, "Well, I'm doing great," it's like put an asterisk by it
Right.
for
Holy
this.
cow.
Yeah, for this crazy year. So, tell me. Well, let's kind of start off there with the pandemic and everything. And so, what are you located in Colorado? Do I have that right?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, my wife and I and our kids, we live about 30 minutes outside of Denver, about South Denver. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And how has the pandemic stretch of time been for you and your family?
Um Well, it's interesting because my wife and I both, our primary income has been touring and music and performing, I should just say. Um, so around March, actually, we hopped on a plane and flew to Maui to play a show with Jake, her and I. And when we landed in Maui, I turned my phone on and got all these texts that the show was canceled. And so I'm like, oh, okay, well, if it was me alone, I'd probably hang out for a few days. But I got Mama Bear with me. We got to get home to the kids. And it wasn't long after that they just decided to close everything down. And yeah, so we just kind of try to keep our heads about us and just keep plowing through and do what we do and focus on the kids and just try to make a good thing of it.
Okay, yeah, and that's really all you can do. I mean, you have to just take it one moment at a time, not even one day at a time.
Right, right, right. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I was just curious, how many kids do you have?
We have two kids. Yeah.
Okay, and I assume they're keeping you busy during this time.
Holy moly. Unlike any other time. And both of them hit major growth spurts during this time. So I'm like, oh, great. In the middle of the pandemic, you guys are growing like weeds. Oh, but they're wonderful. They're great kids.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that everyone's healthy and safe in your
Oh,
immediate
thanks.
family.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And so let's kind of talk about obviously Jake Shimabukuro, and we're going to kind of work our way through a bunch of other things that you are affiliated with or have in
Sure.
your
Sure.
resume. I was just kind of curious. So how did you get the gig with Jake initially?
Oh, yeah. So there's a really good buddy of a mutual friend of Jake and I, um, Brad Corrigan. He's the drummer for a band named Dispatch. Dispatch is they're like the most well-known underground band you can think of, and um, yeah. So I helped Brad. He was making a film and he was doing a film score, and I helped him do a lot of the film score, and he was inviting a lot of his friends in. So he invited the Switchfoot guys in there to do some music, and then Stefan Lassard, bass player from Dave Matthews, came in and we did some music together. And one day I was recording this thing, and and it's like this really fast finger picking pattern, just kind of trying to make a wash. And Brad stops the session. He goes, I wonder who could do that faster, you or Jake Shimabukuro. And I went, well, Jake Shimabukuro can. And it wasn't long after that. Jake was in town. He played a symphony show in Boulder, which was about 45 minutes from the studio. And I was playing a show in Nebraska. And I was driving home. I drove 7 hours to get to the session. And we met at the studio at 3:30 in the morning, and we recorded. And it was one of those kind of one of those things where, like, Jake and I, we hadn't met before, but we were just kind of improvising, and we would play the same riffs and same notes at the same time. And I mean, you just kind of look at each other and go, okay, that was weird. And then when it happens again and again and again, you kind of take note, because that's very rare. So we exchanged info that night, and then he came to Denver again. I played with him, and then next thing I knew, I was in Japan with him, and then recording the trio record. And yeah, yeah, life continues.
Yeah. Well, that's got to be like I mentioned to you guys, which is it's kind of funny because I mentioned this to Jake a couple of weeks ago that when I last saw you guys in October of 2019 here in
Right.
Edmonds, and we were talking about this pre-show,
Yeah.
and I was talking with yourself and Jake and Nolan, that at that time I didn't know Trio was coming out. It wasn't
Right.
no one ever told me anything about it. I found out
Right.
about it, I think, from the stage. Like Jake said something. I'm like, what? That's an album coming
I
out.
know, I know. We're just classic artists that just kind of forget what we have coming up business wise, and yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a fun show. I remember that show. That was a fun show.
Yeah, no, it was amazing eventually I got an advanced copy from Jake's team and that kind of thing. So I did a review
Oh,
of it,
cool.
and
Thank you.
finally getting to hear, the trio of you and Nolan and Jake doing this thing. And I've seen it. I remember telling you guys in person that there, like you just mentioned, there's such a chemistry when you guys played. And I
Oh,
know things like on the last round of live shows, I think Jackson was filling in on bass or what have you.
mhm.
But like you just said, when you first met Jake, here you are playing something, and you guys, it's almost like you're sharing the same brain or something, and
Yeah.
that's so rare. So that
Mhm.
when you find it, you're like, well, that's a good thing. Let's kind of hang on to that and see where and explore it and see where it goes. So
Yeah, and it's also just wonderful when the musical brotherhood that can exist is just it just happens to be with the most consistent touring musician I think in the world. Jake is continually nice, and he's always nice, and that makes for a very good, pleasant touring experience. And from my experience, tours don't always go like that. So yeah, it's I'm truly honored, and but Mark, sometimes, in fact, very often, I'm on stage and I feel like my only role on stage is just so people could go, well, he's good, but Jake is unbelievable. And that, I think he's just up there so we could see just how good Jake was.
oh man, but for me, being a guitar player myself, I know what you add to that mix, and
Oh, thank
you
you.
have such a real layered approach to how you bring the guitar to things, especially on the trio record, because you're doing a lot of ambient types of sounds
Mhm,
that maybe people think, oh, that must be a keyboard or a sequencer
mhm.
or something. It's like, no, that's Dave playing the guitar,
Oh, yeah.
and it adds such a richness to things. So,
Yeah, thank
um,
you.
yeah,
Thank
no, that's thank you. It was amazing watching you
you.
guys
Oh,
play, having a chance to talk to you, obviously in person. Now we're doing this virtually, and
mhm.
yeah, I remember when we were talking about this pre-show too, that when I first met you guys at Benaroya Hall, you were eating backstage, and
That's not surprising.
I I felt so bad because I'm like, that's the last thing I want to do is interrupt someone's meal.
Oh, no, 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 no.
And you guys were like, they said, no, grab some food if you want.
Yeah,
Grab
yeah.
this. Do you want a drink? And I'm kind of like, yes, but no. I'm trying to be polite. But I just remember you guys are so, and I've met Jake once before, but not in an interview situation, just after a show or what have you. So I
Mhm,
knew that he was nice. I didn't know you, didn't know Nolan. Nolan was my contact because he was your TM, doing those TM
mhm.
duties for me. And I'm like, man, these guys are like just the most genuine, nice people. It's like, why aren't there more of these people? And maybe they're out there and I just haven't met them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, they are out there. Just touring's hard, but it's nice to just remind yourself that it's an ukulele and it's four strings. That's really all it is. So it's nice. It's nice to be around good people for sure on stage.
Yeah, no, again, for me, there's just a small piece of that for me being involved with Alice, and
Yeah,
I met them 3 years ago, and they're such amazing musicians, but even better people, and
yeah.
that's what stuck with me. And you guys are in the same boat. I mean,
Mm.
anyone, I see some people from the Alice fans that were watching all those shows are watching this right now,
Oh,
which
cool.
yeah, which is really nice that they're coming over because they're used to me, so I've kind of brought them along on this right now for
Oh, that's awesome. Well,
yeah.
my daughter's name is Alice, so
Oh, there we go.
if that means something.
But yeah, it's like I found that there's a common thread if you can find how people do their business, how they approach other people. It doesn't matter if they're a film person, a musician, athlete, just a person next door even. It's just like that thread is what interested me to bring certain guests onto the show for the tour because I did
Mm.
46 interviews.
Right. God,
So
you're amazing. You're amazing.
I,
Wow.
it was fun.
Well, you know what? I bet it was fun, but I also bet it was pretty stressful at times, right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it was. And I've written about it too, so that's not a secret to anybody out there. The band knows that. Thankfully, they are so patient putting up with me on those kind of days when I got maybe a little surly about things because I was getting stressed out about stuff because I wasn't used to any of this stuff. Once we got to that interim part, I think I really relaxed and really understood, like, this is how this works. This is how the band works. So just kind of work around them. Yeah. And then now we're, and they already mentioned this, there's going to be a third leg in October.
Awesome.
So they're going back out doing the virtual thing. And you can probably appreciate this as someone who likes to work with his hands. Almost everything that they do is DIY. So the whole lighting system, the audio, the streaming, the costumes, everything they do, the band did it. They converted their drummer's house into their club.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. If you ever get a chance to look at
I gotta check that out.
Any of the live streams, you're like, so who did they hire for this stuff? And you're like, they didn't hire anybody. They did it. So I'm just amazed by that, and also just for me having a chance to be a part of it. Hey,
sorry about that.
No, that's okay. But one thing you also mentioned to me 2 years ago when we were backstage at Benaroya Hall was that you had played with Zakk Wylde at one point, like on this acoustic tour. What can you tell me about that tour? What was it like? And especially if I'm playing acoustic stuff.
Yeah, well, the gig with Zakk, it happened like that. It wasn't a tour. It was a gig at a motorcycle festival here in Colorado. And Zakk is, I mean, he's like Jake. He's unbelievable on the guitar. So for some reason I found for some reason I found myself on stage with him, and I mean, I didn't contribute anything to the set. I just kind of stood there, and I look like me, and honey. Anyway, yeah. So I look like me, and Zakk looks like the badass that he is. So there's a bunch of motorcycle guys hanging out. And I'm like, oh man, I'm not doing anything for this song, and I don't even think he remembers personally. So yeah, it was just kind of like a one-off thing. And God, he's so good. He's so clean. His acoustic stuff is just amazing, and he seems like he's 10 feet tall, and he's got this big, deep voice. And I mean, he is the real deal, man, for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, sorry, it's not that exciting.
No. I mean, I think it's just interesting. I remember when you first told me that you had done something with Zakk, and I picture exactly the Mountain Man and the Jack Daniels. I don't think he drinks now, but at one point he was drinking like a fish and all that kind of thing, and just tearing it up with Ozzy and Black Label Society and Zakk, Zakk Sabbath tribute thing he does, and and he started so young with Ozzy.
I know, and I think that was, whenever you get those guitar players that just kind of, they're ushered in so quickly into that heavy rock scene. Yeah, I mean, they just get exposed to so many things, and it feels like they're in a way playing catch up in their lives. I mean, their talent seems to always soar, but as far as like sobriety and those kind of things, like, yeah, it feels like he's constantly playing catch up. But he's at a place now, like you say, I think he is sober. And when artists become sober and they're not really reliant on substances for creativity, there's really something special about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I remember reading an interview a long time ago with the local metal band Queensryche here. And I think it was Chris DeGarmo who was one of the main songwriters at the time, one of the guitar players. And he kept talking about how he needed to use drugs of some sort to put his mind in another space. And it's kind of like, well, what happens when you don't? How did you even create anything when you were completely sober or clean?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And even, I mean, you can even ask, well, then you didn't write it. Who wrote it then? If you actually don't remember it.
Yeah.
It becomes this really kind of crazy conversation. But yeah, I mean, he cleaned up too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and, well, he left the band. I think that's what helped him clean up.
Good. Yeah. Sometimes that's a necessity.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the local band Queenreich. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
That's
they're
awesome.
still alive and kicking. I've had a
Yeah.
chance to cover them with their new singer and all that kind of thing. And Todd's great. Talking about great
Oh,
people, another great person with like
awesome.
loads of talent. But hey, let's also kind of, since we're talking about music and things that you've done professionally, how did you first get into music? Take me back.
Sure. Music always existed in my family. My dad was a bluegrass guitar player, and he was kind of a genius in his time. He met my mom, who was a classical pianist in college, and my dad was so good at the guitar he was actually teaching his professors. And so, I mean, and I cannot do any bluegrass guitar for the life of me, and he just wails, and I could just listen to it all the time. Um, but yeah, so there were instruments laying around the house, and we were exposed to Ravi Shankar and Philip Glass growing up, and we were constantly listening to classical music. And my older brother is an operatic singer, and he's got a beautiful voice, and he has quite a story as well. And then I have a younger brother who plays violin and guitar, and so yeah, we always had music in our family. But really, it started really clicking when I was in sixth grade, and I think it was girls liked the guitar, and I just started playing guitar for girls, and then here we are. It turned into like a philosophy and a life venture of how like baseball and woodworking and music kind of all meet, and they're all the same. They're all identical things. And yeah, it's just funny. It's just really funny.
Well, and you just mentioned it, and you mentioned this to me one of the prior times that we met, that you have a professional baseball background, but I don't know anything beyond that. So, like, kind of walk me through that too. When did the baseball start? Where level did you get to? Was it some sort of career-ending injury that happened, or what kind of transpired from your career?
Yeah, I played baseball my whole life, and I got up to my senior year in high school and just had a pretty bad coach. But at that point, I was pretty burned out with the sport, and I really, I just, you're 18, well, you don't know anything, so I got into firefighting, and then EMT stuff, and then I was working construction, and that's kind of where the woodworking kind of came in, um, and then I was in school, and I was going to study to be an English teacher, but then that didn't really suit me at the time. And I remember I called my boss. It was like a really early December morning in Denver, and it was cold. And I called my construction boss, and I said, "Hey, I'm just gonna try doing music." And he goes, "Yeah, okay, yeah, just call me when you want work." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I never called him, so I figured that out. But and then baseball was just kind of on the back burner for a while, as I was doing the guitar, and I thought, to be an artist, you had to be so artsy and folksy and all that. Um, and it wasn't until I got married that I realized just so many things that you can do, so many things that you just allow yourself to be, and all those things that we build up that can just be ripped down so easily. And so yeah, a friend of mine, Matt, he has a semi-pro baseball team in Denver called the Denver Browns, and yeah, I was lucky enough to play for Mile High Elephants and just some semi-pro stuff. And there's some killer retired pros on that team, and pitching for those guys is a blast. And you know, um, so yeah, I don't do it anymore. I'm too old. My arm hurts. so, but but nonetheless, I mean, when you talk about music and sports, it's for me, it's particularly baseball, that there is an energy involved, and it's very interesting to pay attention to that energy, the intimate nuances of those things, and really, to me, they are the same language. And then you throw in woodworking, where nothing can be forced. Nothing can be forced in music or baseball. It just kind of has to happen. And I mean, that's a whole other conversation that can go on for days. But as I've just sat around and thought about it, but yeah. So as far as baseball goes, yeah, that was. I mean, I didn't play for any professional team. I wish I would have. But yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, like you were saying, in high school, you're getting a little bit burnt out on the sport. Plus, you had a bad coach. So I wonder what would have happened if you had not been burnt out and had a good coach.
Yeah, I mean that's a fun little scenario to kind of paint. I mean, I wonder, but I'm very happy where I'm at, and the career I've had has just been amazing. And yeah, I love every part of what I've been able to do.
That's awesome. Well, and like they say, I mean, all these kind of things that helps make you you
Yeah,
for
yeah.
every person. So, that's really great. And
Oh, thanks.
yeah, the other piece too, like you've mentioned woodworking, and I've seen some pictures like on your social media when you've shown I just finished this and I finished that, and I'm kind of like, okay, let's hear about this woodworking piece. I mean, it sounds like that's something you're doing right now during the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I just kind of dove into it, and it's been nice to have that source of income too for the family. And um, but yeah, I mean, it's just it's trying to make your creative mind more engineer like, and um, but then also try to be creative in those moments, but turn it off in others. And but really, I mean, you can't force anything. It has to be done just right. It can't be overdone, and it has to be done with the right tool. And very often guitar players are pretty notorious for it, but you buy something cheaper just so you think you can make that sound, and you really can't. And yeah, it's the right tool that does the job. So I mean, and a lot of the time, it's your hands and your mind that is the best tool. So yeah, I mean, there's a whole philosophy behind that, but um, yeah, every day I get to wake up and experience a new philosophy in music, sports, or woodworking. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing because and I love how you've talked about how things intertwine.
Mhm.
It's not they're not in separate silos per se. That you said across the board from baseball, woodworking, and music that you can't force it. You need to let it come to you. Basically, you can't overdo it, can't underdo it, and it has to be kind of be its own thing. Instead of it being, well, I did this and then I stopped doing that, so now I'm doing this, and I'm not doing that anymore, and I'm doing this. It's like no,
Right.
they're all kind of there. And
Yeah.
I relate to that. I mean, being from a photographer to a writer to an interviewer, it's those things kind of mix. And then I still have my guitars here that I still plunk around on every now and then.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah. When you're taking photos, like it's insanely musical as well. And when you're playing guitar, it's you're photographing an album. It's the same thing. I was actually just explaining to somebody that I'm colorblind, so I don't see any green. Um, but when I hear music, I see colors. So I'm a complete synesthesia guy. And it's really interesting because I'll be able just to like look at somebody, and just because of being a session musician for so long, just be able to look at somebody and ask what color they want, and they'll be able to tell me, and I know exactly how to paint with that. And I think that's what they want. Like, and it's very often the case. It's a really weird way of getting there. But obviously, I can take that into woodworking too. It's like looking at somebody and being able just to kind of sense what they want to hear, want to see, and then pitching as well. I mean, you can, yeah, pitching is very fascinating because there's a lot of signals that you're getting from the batter about where he wants to hit the ball, and you're like, no, I'm not gonna throw it there. And then you do, and then it's a home run, and then you're taken out of the game.
I love how you're describing that. You can, as a session musician, ask somebody for what color they're looking for from the piece that you're working on, and you can try to deliver that color, that flavor, that shade to them. I
Mm.
relate in a certain circumstance because I'm partially colorblind.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, so I mean, I don't know how many times when I had to switch eye doctors growing up. You get the new one. They said, "Did you know that you're partially colorblind?" Like, yeah, I've heard this. And I started getting into shades. I can't tell the difference sometimes.
Right.
And like my mom will give me something, or my dad said, "Well, pick out the purple one, and I'll pick the blue one."
Right.
And they're like, "What are you doing with that?" It's like, because that looks the color to me. And they're like, "No, it's the wrong one."
Yeah.
So I had to kind of learn how to compensate when it came to especially like photography, because I don't see every shade of what's going on.
Right.
But you learn how to do it, and you definitely becomes intrinsic. Like you just said, it's like almost like living that color. Even if I can't quite see it, I can see it in my mind's eye, and this is where I need to go to make it happen.
So what you say mind's eye, like, is it like an emotional response when you see that color? So like if I said, I don't, are you, what type of color blindness do you have?
I mean, in terms of like what I can't see,
Yeah.
it's when you start getting in shades of like from say orange to brown or blue to purple.
Sure. So it's like maybe a green. So yeah, I don't see any green. And it sucks because most of the world apparently is green. But like somebody, when somebody wants a particular color and you're able to deliver that, I'm sure like you can almost focus enough to pick up on something else that's in there, even though you're not capable of seeing it. Right? There's other information in there that you're able to pick up. That's just different, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking specifically when it comes to like doing on location shoots. So like I used to work with models a long time ago, and sometimes it'd be something literal. They'll actually tell me like what this color. Well, that tree is so beautiful, and I'm looking at it. It looks brown to me, and that's all I see.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, it's completely in bloom. It's green all over, different shades of green going on. And I'm kind of like, I just see brown over there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it could be a photo shoot on a location where they don't have to tell me anything. I'm already picking up this flavor that's coming from. And for me, it does seem to be an emotional response to a color that I know is there, but I can't. My brain to my eye is not seeing that, but I know it's there, and that's how I incorporate. It's such an interesting thing to explain to someone who doesn't get it.
Right, absolutely. But then I guess it also hints that there's just so much more to the visual information than what we give it credit for, right? And I think like with music, um, very often as a session guy, you're kind of called in to just do like a very structurized type of thing. And with the trio record, I was like, we would approach a song, and the whole goal was to try to envision not the guitar first and then layers, but the back layers, and then envision what could bloom out from that. So it's a complete reversal of that. So yeah, painting with the background first, going forward and using all those colors. But yeah, what kind of information is there? What does potentially exist, and what can come out that's a very fascinating topic, man.
Yeah, for sure. And I know one thing I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned something pre-show, and you don't have to mention that story, but having toured with Jake, Shimabukuro, for those out there that just joined us right now and aren't familiar with Jake, go check out his YouTube and anything else in his live stream, so you get an understanding of just how just ridiculously good he is.
Yeah.
But do any kind of stories from the road come up? Something really great and grand, or something kind of silly that happened that's funny that you'd like to tell?
Oh man, we are the most boring, goofy. Jake is so entertaining. He watched the movie Free Solo.
Mm-hmm.
It was about that just that badass climber, right? Who didn't feel any fear.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget his name, but Jake watched that. And he decided to scale the whole bus on the inside of the bus. And a bus, you're standing, you're just like normal, and he's like climbing the whole side of it. And the thing about him is that he's a gymnast, and he's so strong. Jake is very strong. So yeah, I mean, he's able to pull himself around, and he can eat like, oh man. I haven't seen anybody eat as much as Jake. And when he gets hungry, it's kind of over. There was a couple tours where he's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna fast the whole tour," and we're like, "No, you're not." And I think it was like maybe a day, maybe if that. But um, oh man, we've had so many good times. I mean, we went over to China. Um, that was that was very interesting, very very different. And that was probably right when coronavirus was starting to come over to the States, which is patient zero maybe. I don't know. And then we've been to Japan. I've been with him to Japan 3 times. We did Europe together. We've been all over the states. I think we've seen almost every state. So yeah, I mean, he's just a great guy to tour with.
Yeah, and I've asked other touring musicians this before, that just like you just said, that have toured the world, internationally. Do you notice a difference in the audiences from, say, Europe to America to Japan?
Absolutely. Holy, oh man, yeah. Japan, they're very reserved. Um, China was the weirdest one. They would pack into these places, like literally on top of each other, and they were silence, like there was nothing. And 3 of us would walk on stage and they would erupt. And then it's like somebody just told them to shut up and they just stopped. And we're like, oh God. So then we played and then the song ended. Same thing. They just erupted and then they stopped. And we're like, oh, well, I guess I should. Okay, I'll hurry. Get the next patches ready and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was kind of. It's just the whole flow of it was so different. In Japan, they're so reserved. Like they wait for the note to completely die down and then they erupt. And America, like people they shout back and they're a little more brash. But I mean, there's a good politeness there. And Jake's audience is just the kindest people. They're so wonderful. And then in England, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, they're pretty polite, and um, yeah, yeah. I mean, and ultimately depends on the act that you're with. I mean, if you're touring heavy metal, you're going to be, of course. But I was talking about how metal fans were nicest after the show um, from any other genre of music I've ever toured with, and I think it's because they just get it all out. Like they're moshing and they get it all out, and they're just so kind after the show. You're like, this is amazing. But anyway,
Hmm. That's an interesting observation. I've actually never heard that. But me being a metalhead growing up and still a metalhead to this day, that yeah, I guess that would make sense because it is such a release, especially that
yeah,
kind of show. I mean, you're just like, ah, and all kind of
yeah,
whatever's going on with you just kind of comes out of you, and
yeah.
then you feel pretty tired when the show's over. I know I do.
I know you feel exhausted. Yeah, and what I have found is the heavier the metal, the more kind the people are. It's a funny graph, but if it's like kind of hard rock, like not metal yet, people they still got that edge, and you're like, what's going on, man? Yeah. Anyway,
That's
sorry.
no, I think that's true. I think also from a fan's point of view, that I remember the first time I met the guys from Cannibal Corpse, death metal band, and
Totally.
and they couldn't be like they couldn't be nicer guys. I
Yeah.
remember their drummer Paul was signing my little CD insert, and I said thank you, and he said no, thank you. And I was
No,
kind of just really kind of surprised, I'm pleasantly surprised by that.
that's
And
awesome.
and how many times have you heard the story about when fans are outside by a tour bus, and then either the band members just walk straight onto the tour bus,
Yeah.
or they say something, oh yeah, I'll be right back, and they never come back out.
Right. Right.
Well, George Corpse Grinder Fisher, I remember this. He said, "Hey guys, I swear to God, I'm going to come back out. Give me 10 minutes." And he went on the bus, and we're all kind of like, "Is he coming back out or not?" 10 minutes later, he had a Coke in his hand. He came back out. I was like, "Well, what's going on, guys, everybody?" So he was true to his word,
That's
and
cool.
and I've met him several times since, and they haven't changed in like 20 years that I've met that
See,
band over
that's
the years.
awesome. That's so important for any musician who's ever touring, even if you're not part of the band, that the performance does not end when you're off stage. Like the entire performance begins at load in, and how your crew is treating the local crew and how you treat the fans at the end. That's the stuff people remember. So the moment load-in happens, I mean, you can be in your bunk sleeping, you can be who you are. When you wake up, I mean, that's your time. But when you're in the new city, yeah, the show is when you wake up to when you go to bed. So that's something that I really hope people can understand more as we move forward with the touring industry.
Yeah, no, I love the fact that you have that perspective
Mm.
on it, and because I think it's really true, and I can flip it around that here local media for theaters and musical theaters, the things that I cover pre-pandemic, of course, that there are some words kind of getting around about some reviewers that were not treating the staff at the local theaters well. So, like, if
Mm.
say you're on the guest list for 2 tickets or whatever, and these people are going and kind of berating them, like, "Well, how come you don't have my name's supposed to be there? How come it's not there?" And just like,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
they work for the venue who also works for the person who's your contact or what have you. It's like they're trying to do their job, and maybe there's a mistake and they'll try to fix it, but give them some slack.
Mm.
But it got around pretty quick about who treated people well and then who didn't. And luckily, I was on the good list.
Yeah, right, right. Well, good, good, good. And like it's okay to have a moment where you're not as proud of that moment as maybe others. That's completely okay. But no, you're right. I mean, that's just part of growing up, right? Is learning what's important and what's not.
Absolutely, and I think it goes across everything that you do and how you carry yourself. So it doesn't
Yes,
matter that for my day job I do this, or when I'm a media person I do that. It's like, no, you should be doing it consistently across the board of how you treat
absolutely.
people, and that it really reflects on you. Um,
Yes,
and
yes.
and people notice when you're that kind of consistent, gentle, kind, open type of person, or if you're that judgmental jerk, moody, you can't figure them out, someone who's always negative about things. They,
Hmm.
they, they notice that too. So it's like, why not try to be one of the positive people? Because we need
Yeah,
more and more of them. We don't
right.
need the other ones. There's too many of those already.
And I wanna just challenge. This is mainly for me. It's not for anybody else. But like if you're able to be grumpy and you kind of catch yourself and you go, "Dang it, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Let's try all that again. I was just in a bad mood. Maybe I ate something weird." Like just try to like just give your chance the opportunity to maybe grow from that. And it's okay to have that. But I mean, to me, like being able to see artists as human beings is one of my favorite things. Um, but ultimately, like seeing people make mistakes and try to correct them for something bigger, I think is very admirable. And yeah, it's something that Jake and I talk about, with the rest of the team, is when touring does pick up again. I do think that it's not just going to be showing up to a place and playing shows. I do think that there's a greater purpose with spreading the type of music that we do and the type of joy that we have. And I think we'll all be very appreciative of it. And yeah, it's going to be very exciting when it happens again, because I mean, come on. Yeah, man.
Yeah, no, I'm there with you that all the people that love concerts, theater, ballet, opera, whatever your live event is, when we finally get to actually be in that communal setting again,
Mhm.
enjoying the same thing, exchanging that energy with the band on the stage, and they're giving it back to the audience, and it just keeps building and building, and all these kind of emotions that happen, and then you've been having that ripped away from you for months on end right now.
Mhm.
It's built just built. I know again, for me personally, it's just building up. I'm just kind of just waiting for that dam to break when we can
Right.
finally just
Yeah.
let it loose. And I think you're right. I mean, I know, as fortunate as I've been over the years to interview people and see shows and photograph people, that this pandemic time, I think about it even more how appreciative I am about those
Mm,
things, because they were taken away from me.
yeah.
That you don't know what you miss till it's gone. That whole
Right.
concept,
Right.
and I miss it. I
Right.
totally miss it.
Right. Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
alone for folks that are making a living from it.
Yeah.
Brings a whole other dimension. And actually want to kind of segue into that, which is your wife, I believe, sang on the trio record, which was the cover of the Fleetwood Mac song "Landslide." Is that
That's right.
correct?
That's right.
Okay. And I think I know you and Jackson were on the live stream with Jake. Was your wife on that too? My mom was telling me something about how she heard your wife sing, and I can't remember if it was through a live stream or just something separate.
Oh boy, it might have been through something separate that her and I did together. But actually, that's a really good idea. We need to get Rach involved with singing and Jake live, like on a live stream. That would be a great idea. Yeah, because
Yeah.
because we did. She came out with us in February for 3 days, and during those 3 days, we got to celebrate our 6th wedding anniversary. And she killed it, man. She did. Yeah, she did Landslide and The Rose, and gosh, what was the other one? Oh man, I'm forgetting. But yeah, I mean, she's honestly like my favorite singer I've ever played with, and I've played with the best singers on the planet. So so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no,
geek it out.
Yeah, that's amazing, because I know when I got the trio CD that I was working on something else. I had it playing on my system, so I didn't have the liner notes with me in front of me. I wasn't looking. I was just taking it in the first time.
Yeah.
And when it got to that song, I'm like, who's that singing that?
Yeah.
And so that's when I actually went and grabbed the CD, and I was looking through the stuff, and I was looking and I was like, oh, that's Dave's wife singing that. It sounds so good, because it reminds me of Stevie Nicks, but it's not Stevie Nicks. That's what I liked. There's a flavor of it there, but it's still her own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when we were recording that in the studio, I asked Jake, I was like, so I love this song. It's a really good song, but there are some things about it that have kind of always bothered me structurally. I go, do you mind if I show you those things? So I showed it to him, and he's like, oh yeah, do it. So I changed a couple chords, and Rachel, like, she's just, we sent her the track, and we're all in Nashville recording, and you're in the studio and you're focused on so many things. And I got the track and I said, can we just put it on in the studio and just everybody listens? And it was raw, completely raw. We put it on in the studio, and just everybody sat there like, oh. So that's just fond memory. We're like, okay, well, that song's done. And then out of that, because it was so ethereal, out of that came Wish You Were Here. And that was, which is, I mean, the whole album is so insanely symbolic for this year. And we had no idea. I Wish You Were Here, it wasn't kind of the Pink Floyd perspective. It was, we kind of took the perspective like an angelic presence, like people from heaven saying, wish you were here. So it's like this really ethereal, just beautiful, and the word that I want to use for the song is trusting, because with music, if you can get your listener to trust you, then you're able to get them to fall further into the sonic landscape that you've created, and ultimately trying to heal people and help people, and yeah, so yeah.
Wow. That when you're talking about getting the audience to trust you, that reminds me of what Dee Wallace is, an actress that's been around for like 50 years. She was in E.T. and 10. She was the mom in E.T. and that kind of thing. And
yeah.
So she's like the most amazing person, because the way she comes across on camera, there's definitely a part of that to her in real life. She's everybody's mom.
Yeah.
And she's the mom that won't put up with any kind of nonsense either. She'll call it on you. Even like when I was doing an interview with her, she's kind of like, she'll be blunt when she needs to be, but at the same time, she's so caring and wants to hug you and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I remember her saying that as an actor, that if she doesn't cross a line, which I think to her is the same thing as being trusting for the audience, then the audience won't follow her.
Sure.
And it's the same type of concept, I think, because I'd never heard that. This was like in 2012 when she told me that. And as soon as she did, I started thinking about that. Everything that I love, and when I watch a movie that's maybe not quite resonating with me, or the performance is resonating, it could be something of like, the actor has not dug that far in to get me to basically go along with them.
Right. And I think the key word there is go along with them. So you can create art that's just supposed to be watched. Then that's fine. that's the whole purpose of it. To me, like contemporary painting is that you're just supposed to watch it. You're not supposed to engage with it. And but if you feel like, you know what, I'm a very complex person and I can sit inside of this actress and her performance, I can fit in there because she's so inclusive, then she's done a great job. And then you've crossed that boundary, like you say, and you're like, okay, well, now I'm included in it. And that's what we all want. We all want to be included in something fantastic. We all want to watch something amazing. And that's why people come to Jake shows, because it's always fantastic, except for the guitar player.
You got to give yourself more credit. I can honestly tell you this because my mom and I and my dad have seen Jake, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 times at least. So we saw the different incarnations through the years. And my mom told me because she was supposed to come to the Ben Arroyo show 2 years ago and she was sick, I remember, so she couldn't make it. So seeing you guys last year at Edmonds was her first time seeing the trio with Nolan and yourself. And I remember her telling me as we were driving home, she said, that was the best show I've ever seen of Jake, period.
Oh, wow. Gosh, that's sweet.
Yeah, and that's the truth. So I know she's watching this right now. So I'm not just saying that because she's watching it. It's actually what she said. And I was like, yeah, this is what you missed last year. And remember when I was telling you how good it was at Ben Arroyo Hall? And she thought it was because of the hall. So, well, the hall's beautiful, but that's what was coming from the stage. That's what was so great about it. And so that was just, it's like magic.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no, again, thank you for the beautiful music and the times that we had a chance to interact. And I know we're kind of going long, but I did want to mention or get some input from you about there was another project that Jake talked about that's kind of in the can already that was supposed to get released in October, but they're kind of reassessing that because of COVID and the pandemic and all that. Did you have a hand in playing on some of those tracks? And if you did, what can you tell me about it?
Yeah, I was so lucky to play on those tracks. Let's see. A big highlight just in my life, because I've never met him before, was working with Warren Haynes. And it was kind of funny because we had done, I think 3 or 4 shows in Arizona, then flew to New York and did a couple shows. And then we had a recording session in Connecticut with Warren. And then the day after that, we're flying to London. And then we started our England tour for about a week, I think it was a week. So it was a crazy chunk of time. And, the way that just kind of learn how to travel over the years is light. So I'm here we are, we're recording with one of the best guitar players ever. In fact, the best guitar solo I've ever heard live was Warren Haynes at Red Rocks. And it was like his 3rd encore that night. It was just this amazing. God, it was so good, man. Oh, Mark, it was so good. So anyway, so I'm sitting there and I have my it's just a fractal. There's no amp. And Warren Haynes is like the amp guy. I'm like, God, I'm sitting here with like the king of tone, and I'm in a computer. And I actually mentioned that to him, and I apologize. I was like, this is kind of sacrilegious, man, but I'm just going to create a wash for you. And he couldn't have been sweeter. But yeah, I mean, the names on that record, I think, is just wonderful. But ultimately, hearing Jake record with those people and hear how they're just everyone's so infatuated by him. And I think it's because Jake is not a dark musician, and there's this mentality, in order to be creative you have to be dark, and that's a lie. And Jake is not that. I mean, he's very creative and he's able to pull so many colors out of light, which is very intriguing. And the way he approaches the ukulele is so un-ukulele like. But yeah, I did have a hand in it, and it's a wonderful record, and I'm bummed that it's not going to be released this year. But when it does come out, it will do some really good things and hopefully touch a lot of hearts.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine what I mean, based on what you just said and the little bit that Jake talked about meeting Willie Nelson. In Maui, I think it was, and when he first went to his house, and I think Willie was playing cards with some friends or something, and he was like saying to Jake about, I want to kind of go through that song a couple times, you know, singing with you. And Jake's kind of thinking, okay, sure, anytime you want to. And he's like Jake realized he meant now. like I'm gonna take a break from my card game and, you know, break out your uke and let's do this kind of a thing before we go into the studio.
yeah. Let's knock it out now. Willie's on his Willie's time. Yeah, Willie and Michael McDonald and Jack Johnson and Bette Midler and Lyle Lovett and Warren Haynes and Sonny Landreth, which if you don't know who Sonny Landreth is, do yourself a favor. Eric Clapton calls him the most sophisticated guitarist in the world, and that's a very good way of describing him. Yeah, it's just amazing record.
Yeah. Okay. And to kind of wrap things up, I mean, you've kind of mentioned things. I know you've been working with your woodworking projects, but have you been working on any kind of music of your own, just demoing stuff, or were you working with your wife at all during this, you know, this downtime?
Yeah. So Rachel, my wife, she just released a new single, and her name is Rachel A on Spotify. Yeah, and it's a great song, and she has a whole record that she's working on, and it's coming together. So yeah, helping her with all the guitar, and she doesn't need any help with the production or the songwriting because she's Rachel and she's amazing. And I'll do a little bit of mixing here and there, and then yeah, with myself, I've kind of been piecing together another ambient record. Yeah. Just slowly. Hopefully I can release that maybe this year. That would be a good goal. I do have a version of, and it's done, and I just need to put it out. I have this. It's really kind of a neat story. If you have a minute, sorry, I know I'm talking just so.
Oh no, I've got all kinds of minutes.
So I was on the bus with Jake. Picked up an ukulele to start playing these chords, and I started singing "Where the Streets Have No Name" to those chords, and I got home and I was like, you know, what the hell? I'll just record it. So I recorded it, and the computer did this weird thing where it took my vocal and it auto-tuned it, but it made it like a chord. It stacked everything as a chord, and then I still had my original vocal in there. So it was like it was in something. I'm not really known as somebody that likes to mess with my voice very much when I'm recording, and so it was very fascinating. So what was so interesting about this is the lyrics to "Where the Streets Have No Name" are very uplifting and very freeing, and you know, it's a human being just in the middle of this open field spreading their arms. And when you hear "Where the Streets Have No Name," this version where it's a minor chord, ukuleles and guitars and all these weird ambient sounds, and you hear this computerized voice with minor chords and in different minor scales and, you know, modes and all that. When you hear that, it actually sounds like a social media digital release, like a personality that's trying to release itself, and it's very eerie. I should just send you the track because it's though I do it no justice, because I don't know, I hear it. It just comes a point where, like, and I'm sure you agree with really everything, that you're making it, but at a certain point you really can't take any credit for what's actually happening because it's just so beyond you. And I think that's the place where you have to realize that you have to stop soon, or kill it. Right?
Yep.
That's one of those things where just it happened, and I did not have the vision for it. So I don't know why, but I do need to release that. I should just send the song to you, and I need to release it on Spotify soon.
Yeah, no, please do. I'm so intrigued by what you just described. I would love to hear that track. And there's people watching this right now saying, you know, it's safe with me. It's not going to get out anywhere. It's not going to end up on YouTube or Spotify or something like that. They can hold me to my word.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I would love to hear this. It's not even a version. It's just your interpretation, perhaps, of that classic U2 song.
Yeah, it just happened. I mean, I wish. Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing song anyway. yeah, there's a whole conversation that can happen with it, and it's just I don't know. I don't know. It seems cool. So
Yeah, no, and if you send me the track, I'll definitely give you my observations and
you got it, man. You got
everything
it.
about it. So, Dave, this was awesome. It's been an
Yeah,
hour of getting a chance to really talk with you about everything under the sun.
yeah.
Um, like I mentioned, I'm so glad and just grateful that I got a chance to meet you in person
No,
twice now. Again, like I've told everybody out there, and I see, so like Sasha, who's one of the members of Alice, is watching this right now. She's in the chat right now. I can see it. And so it's been, oh, there she is.
hey, Sandra.
Yeah, and she would love to hear the track too, if possible.
Oh, cool. I just need to upload it. Okay. Okay.
There
I'll
you
do that.
go.
I'll do that tonight.
Yeah, see, so you got the people that are already intrigued just based on you talking about. They're like, hey, so yeah, see, Captain Blackwood's saying he wants to hear it too.
All right.
But
All right.
I got to tell you this. So the Alice collective, the Alice fan base, they are, like you were talking about earlier and also pre-show, they're some of the best people. They are about, it's like non-judgment. It's about supporting people. It's about every type of genre, not just music, but just kind of everything. And they really take their cue, and I put myself right into that mix too, take their cue from the band, because that's how they lead. And so the fan base, I've gotten a chance to meet a lot of the fans, doing all these shows with Alice. It's been like, wow, they're just an amazing group of fans. So I know they would probably be super, super stoked and appreciative at some point to hear this. I know darn well I would love to hear it myself.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's enough. I'll put it up right now.
Awesome. So, hey guys, we did it. We got Dave to commit to putting it up on Spotify or somewhere where he so chooses.
That's funny. That's funny.
But again, Dave, thank you so much for taking the time tonight. And I hope that you and your wife and your kids stay safe down there in Colorado. And that at some point we get a chance to, once we get to the other side of this, we get to see each other in person up here in Seattle. And when we can talk about that interview we did via the internet.
Yeah. I know it'll be a great catch up moment, and I can't wait to give you a huge hug. I might even pick you up.
I put on some pandemic pounds. This would be interesting seeing you try to pick me up.
I'll try.
Looking forward to it. So, hey, have a great night, great rest of your week, and again, stay safe out there.
Thanks, man. So good to see you, Mark. And
Okay,
bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, and everybody in the chat, thank you for checking things out and following things. And yeah, check out Dave's work everywhere. I mean, all the different things that he does. And eventually, if I happen to see that song online, then I'll definitely put that link in my social so people know, hey, remember that song that Dave was talking about during my interview on Monday? Bam!
Yeah, bang, bam.
There it is. Go check it out.
All right. I'll load it up now.
Great. Have a good night, Dave, and take care.
You too, man. Take care. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.